all have always appreciated our nurses, but none more than right now. I think the fact that we're all being told to stay at home and run away from the virus, and our nurses are hitting it right in the face, it's just unbelievable. It's really emotional for all of us. And the message I would give to our nurses is you're working so hard, and you get so tired, and you get worn out, and you don't get to see the love and the passion that people on the outside are giving you. And it's so deserving right now. So the thing I would say is take care of yourself, but at the same time, take a moment every now and then to know that we're all praying for you, and we're all pulling for you. And we all love you and appreciate you so much. And I want you to feel that love, because sometimes you just get so hung up. I know I do in business, and I'm just in a sport. I'm not in a sport of saving people's lives. I might be changing people's lives. I'm not saving people's lives like you are. So take a moment to know how much you're appreciated.
Thanks so much, Coach. If you have some time, we have some questions from our members that they wanted to ask you. So here we go. We'll get right into it. Our first question comes from Mary. She lives in Raleigh. She is an NCNA member. And Mary asks, nurses are continually battling adversity and pressure. How do you handle adversity and pressure, and how do you relay that message to your team?
Mary, it's a great question. And yours is much more difficult than mine, but my wife Sally has always said that people have their own levels of stress. So all have to handle what we handle. What we always do, Mary, is tell our players that great leaders, and you nurses are great leaders, take crisis and turn them into positives. And you got into this business because you were passionate about saving people's lives and making them feel better. So that's what you do. And one thing I learned, we lost an older coach at Texas named Darrell Royal, who won 3 national championships, and the stadium's named after him. And he was a dear friend of mine. And I asked him once, why did you quit coaching at 52 years old? And he said, the pressure. And I said, what does that mean, Coach? Tell me what you mean by the pressure. And he says, the losses became devastating, and the wins were a relief, and I had no joy in my life. So, Mary, one thing I would say to our nurses, and it sure doesn't compare to football, but I know when we would lose a game, I'd be devastated because I put so much into it. And I can't even imagine when you put so much into a patient and lose that patient. I just can't imagine. But think about the patients that you save. And what I'm doing now is I'm doing a much better job of enjoying the wins, even if they're ugly. I don't care. A win is a win. So when you're helping someone, or maybe even if you lost the person, you made their life much better at the end. We got to take the positive things that we're doing and make sure that we appreciate what we're giving back. And I think that's a huge part of this. Another part of this, Mary, is that you've always got to have great body language. You've always got to have great confidence. And I think a smile is a healer for a whole lot of people. So I want to be happy, and I want to be positive in front of our players. And I'm going to be confident. I'm not going to be arrogant, but I'm going to be very confident. And I'm going to tell them that I feel like we have a chance to win this game, and here are the reasons why. And by me being me, and me understanding that if I do everything I possibly can, then I'm fine. That way I can handle the pressure because I did everything I could do. And I feel no guilt, and I can help someone else by moving forward.
Thanks, Coach. Our next question comes from Lauren in Fuquay-Varina. She is an NCNA member. She asks, was it a tough decision to return to coaching, and how excited are you to be back at the University of North Carolina?
Well, Lauren, it was tough at first because I had such a good life. Doing 4 months a year and playing golf and fishing every day is not a bad life. Absolutely no stress and no problems because I knew what to say on TV. I'd done that my whole life. And we interviewed for jobs every year, but we had decided we wanted to go to a place where we could win, that we wanted to live, where we had friends, and that cut it down. So I said after we came back to North Carolina for a Hall of Fame party, and I was around all the players that we had coached for the 10 years we were here, and we had so much fun. We were enjoying them. She said, you got a twinkle in your eye. You like these guys. You like being around them again, and it was fun. And we should do this again if it works. And I said, okay, so where would you let me coach again? She said, you can go to Hawaii and coach because I love Hawaii. Go to Bahamas and coach because I said, they don't have football. She said, we'll start a team, the Bahama Iguanas. She come back to Chapel Hill because we raised our kids here. We loved it here, and it would be a great way to finish our career. So after Coach Fedora left and Bubba Cunningham called us, Lauren, I was on the set of Who's In at ESPN. I got off the set. I answered Bubba's call. He said, will you come back and be our coach? And I said, I'm not going to interview for jobs, Bubba. I'm just not going to do that. And he said, no, we want you to do it. Sally was in Austin, Texas. I picked up the phone. I called her and I said, you said Hawaii, you said the Bahamas, and you said Chapel Hill. Well, sweetie, they just offered this job at Chapel Hill. And she said, let's take it. So it was not a hard decision for us when it was the right place. And we are having an absolute blast. We've had a great year and a half, and it was a great decision for us.
I know so many people are happy to have you back in North Carolina, Coach. So the feelings mutual from a lot of people in the area.
Right.
Our next question comes from George. He says, you were the winning head coach in the greatest football game ever played, in my opinion, the 2006 Rose Bowl. Can you talk about how you were feeling during that game, the back and forth, the dramatic ending, and how special it was beating USC in California to become national champs?
Yeah, George, it was a special game. It was maybe the two best teams ever. I think there were 60-something players on those two teams that went to the NFL. Both teams were averaging 50 points a game. Both teams were rushing for about 250 and throwing for about 250. They had two Heisman Trophy players. We had Thorpe Award winners. We had two, I think, on our team that were defensive backs, and Vince Young. So it was one of those games we thought would come down to the end, and it was a clear-cut 1-2 all year. So no one else was in the picture, and it was one of the few times that everybody knew it would come down to those two teams. And then, like you would think, the game came right down to the end, and it was just a special moment. My grandson actually watched the game the other day for the first time. He's 9 years old, and he said, Pops, at the end, you didn't seem very excited. And I said, man, we had 19 seconds left. We had to kick off to Reggie Bush. You think you'd be excited? I was thinking. So it was funny to watch him watch the game, but it was a thrill to be part of that game. And Mary asked about pressure. Here's an example of what you've got to do is make it fit. And we're sitting there before the game, and I could see the team was really uptight. So I'd been sitting in my room trying to find something to do, and it was so crazy. The fans were so crazy around the hotel. We actually moved and took our team to an undisclosed site so nobody could find us. And I was sitting in the room trying to think about what to say to the players. I was 54 years old. You're 3-4 hours from a national championship game. It's hard to get there. It's hard to win. What do you say? And I watched Jerry Springer show, and I've never seen it before. So I go into I said, I got it. So I walk into the team, and I said, thank you for getting us here. Thank you for helping us so much. This is so much fun. And listen, I'm going to tell you something that's going to change your life. It's going to help you win the game, change your life. I said, how many of you have ever seen the Jerry Springer show? Well, they all raised their hand. I thought that's kind of funny. I'd never seen it. And let me tell you something. If your girlfriend or wife ever asks you to go on the Jerry Springer show, man, don't go because it ain't good, brother. And they laughed. And I said, yeah, we're not going to be uptight because this was 3 hours before the game. We're good. Yeah. We're going to be us. We're going to have fun, but we're not going to be uptight.
That's a great story. Our next question comes from Leah in Fuquay Varina. Leah asks, during your coaching career, who was the coach you had the most trouble game planning for?
Oh, Leah, that's a great question. I would say it would probably be Pete Carroll in that national championship game because Pete had been a tremendous pro coach. They'd won so many games at USC. They'd won 2 straight national championships. And we say they had a month to prepare. We had a month to prepare. Really and truly, we were preparing since midseason because we knew what it was going to come down to. But Pete's a tremendous coach. He had great players, and he knows what he's doing. He's still winning Super Bowls at Seattle. So I would say that that game was probably the hardest to prepare for of any I've ever had.
Thanks, Coach. Our next question comes from Janice in Durham. She's an NCNA member. Janice asks, I think that nurses are the ultimate team players. What do you think makes a great team player on your team? And is there one player that sticks out in your mind?
Oh, gosh. Leah, I think that's a great question. You've got to be all in. You've got to be the guy that gives everything. You got to be the hardest worker, the best leader, but the person that doesn't care about themselves. That the team, the university, the games are all bigger than they are, and I would think that you go back to Sam Howell this year. He didn't care about himself. He didn't care about stats. He didn't care about running. There's this name like an image that the NCAA is talking about right now. Certain players could get more money for their image than others. And obviously on our team, Sam would have been one of those guys to get the most money. And Bubba Cunningham, the athletics director, came in and talked to our team and said, what do you all think about name like an image? Is that something you feel like you're passionate about and all that? And Sam raised his hand and said, I don't think it's fair because I'm the quarterback and I would get more money than the others, and that's not fair to my teammates.
Wow.
Unless they could split the money up throughout the team, then we shouldn't be talking about this. And here's a guy that he made all ACC, all academic. He's in church every Sunday. He's got very strong faith. He made great grades. So that's a team player, and especially at such a young age.
Yeah, definitely. And our final question, Coach, comes from Connie in Gibsonville. She's an NCNA member. And her question is, how do you motivate the team when your team is overwhelmed but still must perform?
Oh, Connie, I think it's I've always felt like if they're uptight like we were in the national championship game, pull out something like the Jerry Springer story to make them laugh. If you feel like they're a little bit too loose, you got to shake them up. You got to grab them and get their attention, and you never want to make them feel like they could lose. But here's a great example. I'm the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma for Coach Switzer. We're the number one team in the country. We're playing Kansas at Kansas. Kansas is bad, and we have a young quarterback. Our two quarterbacks are out. We have a young quarterback named Troy Aikman who ends up being in the Hall of Fame, and he's our freshman quarterback. But he hadn't played. He was going to redshirt, but we had to play him for this game. And he says, Coach, I'm worried about throwing an interception, losing the game. I said, we're going to kill Kansas. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. So we go to the game. We're in a position where we're ahead 10-7 at halftime, but we're awful. We're playing awful. So I go in at halftime and I throw a chair and I just scream at the offense and talk about how bad they are. And if they don't play better, they're going to lose the game. You're going to lose the game. You're going to lose the game. We lost the game 33-10. It was awful. Troy threw an interception. They ran it back for a touchdown. We fumbled a punt. They caught it in the air and ran it back in. They returned a kick for a touchdown. So we're on the plane going home, and it's one of the worst coaching nights of my life. And I'm sitting next to Coach Switzer on the plane. I said, Coach, I'm sorry we lost the game. We just blew it. And he said, you lose your first and second team quarterback and you're playing a freshman. You're probably going to lose anyway, but let me help you with something. Our players really like you, and our players really respect you, and they're going to listen to you, and they're going to believe in you, and you convinced them at halftime they could lose the game. Because you kept telling them, you're going to lose the game, you're going to lose the game, you're going to lose the game. Don't ever do that again. So we go from that point in my career to being the head coach at Texas 2004. We're playing Oklahoma State, and we're down 35-14 at halftime. And I'm walking off the field, and I feel like I've got Coach Switzer on my shoulder, and he's saying, you be positive, man. You be positive, man. They're beat down. So when they're down, you got to pick them up. When they're up, you got to get on them. So I walked in, I told the coaches, Oklahoma State is so lucky. Oh, my gosh. Everything happened good for them the first half. They've got no chance to be that good the second half. They got no chance. So you go tell those players that we're going to win this game. Tell them how we're going to win this game. It's going to be so much fun. So I walked out with the players, and I said, you are the luckiest guys in the world because fans love comebacks. and you're going to have the biggest comeback in the history of Texas football. Oklahoma State can't play that good again. And we've played hard, but we haven't played good. We're going to play good. And I put, very simply, up on the board, 42-35. And I said, that's going to be the score. See you later. So we won the game 56-35. We killed them the second half. And I said, when I got back in the dressing room, I am so sorry. I apologize to you because I underestimated you. You beat them worse than I thought. But it just shows you the power of positive thinking, the power of great leadership, the ability to take a crisis and turn it into a positive. And what I didn't do at Kansas that night, I was able to learn from and do it when we're sitting there at in Austin, Texas, with Oklahoma State many, many years later. So I think more than anything else, for all of you nurses, let's take these crises and continue to turn them into positives. Keep your energy up. Understand that we love you and we appreciate you. And the power of my voice that night for that Oklahoma team that was negative and for that Texas team that was positive just shows you the power that you have for your patients, for your other employees, the people you're working with. And it shows you how you all have to stay positive and pick each other up. And I think that's the difference in what makes a great team.
Coach, I think that's a phenomenal message. I think it's a message that nurses can relate to. And I think that's a great place for us to end. So on behalf of all the nurses, on behalf of the North Carolina Nurses Association, I want to say thank you to you for taking the time out of your day. I know the nurses are going to appreciate it, and they'll be happy to hear your voice and see your face. And I know they're excited for football to come back, just like we all are. But thanks again, Coach. We appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you. You take care of yourself, and we'll see you at Kenan Stadium in the fall.